Running Sentences presents One Dead Man, Part 1, Discovery. Two friends are enjoying a day vacation out on an island. That is, until they come across a body. A rather very important body. This story is written and narrated by Michael Henry. It is a work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within the story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and/or fictional businesses, characters, events, and so on and so forth is purely coincidental. Copyright 2026, Michael Henry, all rights reserved. Charles and Nate found themselves hiking up a steep path from the beach up to a nearby park. They'd been aimlessly walking about ever since they'd arrived on Lawson's Island. Their plan, which hadn't really been one, was to explore and take in what this little enclave had. But the place had so many hills and was so mountainous and ups and downs that they were already tired.
How much further up do we have to go?
10 more steps and then we can rest, Nate. God, Charles, I didn't realize how out of shape I'd gotten. I don't think being in shape would have helped. The grueling last few steps were conquered and the two stood on a solid grassy ground that had another hill in front of them. They looked to one another and both sat down hard on the ground to catch their breath. Why did we come here? I can't remember what our excuse was for doing something stupid like this. Charles shook his head at Nate's question as he let himself lie back on the long, sweeping grass. To do something? To get away? You or I wanted to get out and hang out and get away from life or something like that. What a fun idea, Nate growled. It sounded good and probably would have been had we not chosen this hilly hellhole, Charles responded. Terrible fucking luck on our part. The words slipped from Nate's mouth as he noticed something on the edge of the next hill. It looked like a shirt, but he wasn't sure why would it be there. He slowly rose, trying to get a better look at it. What are you doing? Charles asked.
I spotted what looks to be a shirt up there.
Oh, okay. Why would you care if there's a shirt up on top of another hill? Nate reflexively offered a shrug and moved towards the next set of stairs. These were only about 20 or so steps up to go. Despite his legs protesting, Nate made it up and looked to his right, where he saw a puke yellow shirt. He wasn't sure. Maybe it was a different color? It looked like a polo shirt, though, and it caught in the weeds or grass or something like that. But from where he stood, and where he'd seen it, it wasn't visible. Puzzled by this, he took a few steps into the weeds and off of the path, and then came to a stop when he spotted the shirt.
Ah, fuck. Shit.
Nate jumped down to the top of the path that Charles still lay on. The thump made him sit up and look at his now terribly pale friend. You okay? No, I am not, Charles. Well, what's wrong? I think we should leave now. Why? What? Charles asked, rather confused. Body, Nate said, pointing upwards. Now a bit more caught up, and seeing that his friend was really disturbed by this, Charles rose from his spot. He was worried and didn't quite understand what Nate was saying when he said body, but maybe it was something. I'll just go check that, Charles offered. There's no need. I saw what I saw. Maybe you thought you saw it and it turns out to be something else. There's no harm in me checking it out, right? Yes, I think there is, Nate said while chewing his lip. Charles ignored that, though, and then went up the stairs, tracing Nate's footsteps. He came to a stop in a similar spot. Do you see the problem now? Nate called out. Yes. We have to get out of here. Nate was a few feet behind him now. Well, we can't leave a body here. We have to report it to somebody, Nate. Who the fuck were we going to report it to? Anyone and everyone would practically believe that it was us who caused whatever happened to that person. Look, we're good people. It wouldn't take too long and it would clear our names, Charles tried to point out. The press and the social media would have a field day with our names and would forever be associated with whatever happened here. I'm not letting that happen, Nate firmly declared. Fine, run away, though. Where is this guy's security team?
He kinda looks somewhat important, so you would need one of those, right?
Shouldn't they be here?
Charles said as he pointed at the body.
Yeah? Nate
responded as he
took a long look around nervously. No one else appeared to be here or near them, though a secret security detail probably wasn't going to make its presence known. Not right away. Look, we can't leave the body here, not with everybody else around, because then they'll just say that we did it, Charles said. Unable to stop himself from giving an incredulous look to his friend Charles, Nate's mouth dropped open. What are you even proposing? There's a dead man who looks like someone important lying before you. If we even try to move it, or even tell anyone, everyone will be pissed off at us. Nate snapped at Charles. And if we don't, everyone is going to be pissed off at us when we try and run away and hide. A loudspeaker from somewhere nearby came to life, echoing and reverberating for a moment. Then it settled down as a loud voice came over it. Please be aware, this island is now in lockdown. No one is allowed on or off the island without express consent. That is all. Charles looked to Nate, and he returned that worried look of what the fuck. The intercom system, which apparently was stretched throughout this island, didn't say anything else, and they hurriedly looked about for it and anything else around them. All was quiet. We have to do something. What, though, Charles? Well, let's just grab this fat fuck and move him somewhere else, and then run away. Why would we move him? Nate asked. That way we can say that we came this way and never saw him. The cops are going to be going through people and asking questions, and, well, I don't know, Charles said, his thoughts trailing away. Fine, let's just do this, Nate growled. The two had grabbed a hold of the fat body of the leader and were doing their best to drag him towards a nearby tree line. It was taking some time, though, as a weird stench was coming from the body, and neither of them was actually good at dragging a body. Come on, hurry up. People are going to show up at any second and start questioning us, Nate said, struggling as he grabbed to keep a hold of the man. I'm trying. It isn't exactly easy, Charles said, struggling to keep a hold of the man as well. This is madness. Why are we doing this? Nate asked. To protect ourselves? You're acting like the cops or anyone who comes searching don't have DNA kits and shit, Nate grumbled. It sort of looks like it's going to rain soon. Maybe the DNA will wash away, Charles offered half-heartedly. Don't think it works that way, Charles, and it does not look like it's going to rain. The sound of nearby footsteps made them drop the body in some deep grass, right close to the tree line, but not quite there. They both straightened up as a couple of soldiers came charging by, one of them stopping at them as the rest carried on. What are you two doing here? A soldier demanded to know. Out for a hike? Nate said. We heard the beach is lovely, so we wanted to take it in. We needed to get away from regular life, you know? Charles added. No, I don't know. Have you seen our dear leader? The soldier asked. Charles and Nate shared a look with one another and then back to the soldier, who eyed them. Both took a step further forward to block the soldier's view of behind them. The leader? Nate questioned. Who do you mean, sir? Charles asked. An important leader, who is absolutely beloved by all. Oh, them, Charles said, but was still rather confused. No, we did hear an announcement, though, didn't we, Nate? Oh yes, came to the house loud and clear that no one is allowed off the island. Is something going on? There was another heavy, long stare from the soldier, who took a step away from them. They watched as he went, waving to him, which got them more stares and headshakes to go along with it as he ran off after his friend. Do you think they bought that? Charles asked. The body is right behind us. I'm surprised they didn't look that way. In fact, I'm sure they did, but why didn't they act? They both turned around to look and see that the yellow puke-shirted fat man was the man the soldier was talking about. Except he wasn't there. We dropped him right there. Yes, we did. How does a dead man escape? Charles asked, mostly for his own comfort. Was he dead? You felt him. There was a gaseous odor, and he felt cold as well as... I don't know how cold he felt, but he was weird to touch him. They looked about for a moment, but didn't spot anything anywhere. Well, I guess that's your job done, then. I mean, yes, but aren't you curious about what happened? No, Charles. Dead body vanished, and that's the extent of my concern. Anything else is only going to cause us problems. We're already in a lot of problems. As Charles said this, he took a few steps forward to get a better look at something that he thought he saw, and into the tree line, only to find his feet sliding a few feet down. Nate took a step forward and carefully found his own footing slipping in mossy ground. Did you find anything down there? The dead important guy, you mean? Yeah, who else would I mean, Charles? It isn't like I'm talking about you. You have some weird conversations lately with people, and I really don't know about you. And you could be talking to air for all I know. I've never done that. Charles fixed him with a look to ask if he really was serious about that whole matter. You did it the other day, trying to parse out a problem you were having at work. You can't count that or hold it against me. Everyone does that sort of thing, I think. Yeah, but they'll at least admit to it at some level. Fine, I talk to myself. Happy? Nate offered. Not really. We still have to figure out what's going on and what to do. The sound of footsteps made Nate look up to see the group of soldiers were now coming back in their direction. He froze in place. Whoa, wasn't there two of you a moment ago? The soldier who talked to them before asked. Yes, my friend slipped down a surprise embankment on the tree line. Yeah, I'm right here, Charles shouted up. Scrambling up as quickly as he could, Charles joined his friend in standing in front of these 5 soldiers, who were now all stopped in front of them. Have you two seen anything weird? The soldier demanded. No, Nate replied. I don't think I've seen anything weird lately. What would be weird, though? Charles asked as he looked over the soldiers. They all looked strange in their camouflage uniforms, like they didn't belong here at the moment. An elderly man wandering about who likes to pretend to play dead. Nate and Charles shot a look to each other. That was very specific and somewhat familiar. But it couldn't be, right? No, we haven't seen anything like that, Nate said. One of the other soldiers had went over towards the tree line to look down at the embankment to see how deep the sudden drop appeared to be. Geez, there's a bit of a drop here or there. Sir, do you think we should go exploring this way? The soldier who'd gone over there asked. No, orders are to go to the beach and back. We will report all that we see in between here. They'll then order us to go look at it after we report in. The soldier in charge told him he was the same one who had spoken to Nate and Charles. Shouldn't we just take this on and get ahead of things, though? The soldier next to the steep incline said. We're privates, with only me being a corporal. The last thing the higher-ups want us is running around doing things that they didn't order yet. It might look good now in our minds, but it's only going to get us yelled at first. We're not supposed to stick our necks out for anything. Don't you remember your sergeant's last words at a boot camp? Sticking your neck out and asking for extra duty is a bad idea. Let's get back. The sooner we do, the sooner we can be back here doing our jobs again. Charles and Nate stood stock still, fearful of moving or doing much of anything. The group of soldiers apparently were now ignoring them as they ran off in the direction that they originally come from. Once they were long gone, Nate turned to Charles. I would suggest we get out of here. Yes, but what if that guy was faking his death and then we carried him all the way over here to hide him? You don't think he's going to tell everyone? Charles said with a nervous look to the tree line. He might and can, but I'm getting on the nearest boat and getting the fuck out of here. Good luck with that. No one is leaving, remember? Charles pointed out. I can find a boat. And I'm going to go find this guy. Nate, having taken a step away, as he said his finding a boat thing, spun on Charles hearing those words. And do you what? Knock him out? Kill him? He's apparently an important leader in a puke yellow shirt? The fat fuck doesn't listen to anything anyone says anyway. Find out what he's up to and why he'd be pretending to play dead? Why would you care about that? Because he can get us into shitloads of trouble unless we fucking explain ourselves to him, Nate. I mean, after all, he did have soldiers looking for him, and maybe we can bribe him or something, or I don't know. We wouldn't even get close to him, Nate said. So what? How is running away from all of this going to help us? The cops won't let us off this island, nor will the soldiers, probably. No, I tell you what we do. We find a hotel and we bunk down for the day. They'll probably find this dude. The whole thing will just be lifted. They will definitely come searching for us, Nate, if they find him. Well, then we can be in a comfortable hotel room instead of out here in sticky, hot hiking gear that is getting uncomfortable because of how much sweat they're making us do. It's a day trip. All we have are these clothes, Charles pointed out. Well, that dude, our leader, apparently isn't anywhere down there right now, and we don't know where he could have gone, dead or alive. Let's find somewhere to regroup and rethink this, Nate asked for as he looked about uncomfortably. Charles looked out at the embankments of the wooded area. It was pretty dense looking, and there were no signs of that puke yellow shirt. The place wasn't even that dark compared to the woods that they'd been hiking through to get to those valleys of rocky hills and land. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, but let's just go, Charles said with a nod. With a few more quick looks around, the two abandoned the spot, both hurrying while trying not to look like they were running the fuck away. The sixth hotel that they managed to try was just as busy as the others were. People panicked and hurried about, trying to do something, but neither Nate nor Charles could figure out what it was that they were trying to do. Maybe they were trying to get a reservation, but it didn't seem like that was what they were up to. But anyway, the place was packed, but there was no line to the front desk, which was either a good or terrible sign. But it had no sign saying they were full, and there was a clerk at the desk, so they both walked up. Oh, can I help you two today? Are you looking for a room like everyone else? I'm going to go ahead and guess that will be a yes, the hotel clerk said, looking all too bright and cheery. Yes, please. Do you have a room? By your luck, yes, a single room. Does it have 2 beds? Charles asked, surprised. It does have 2 beds. It has been reserved, though. The two shared a worried look with one another before looking back at the clerk. Has this person not shown up yet? Nate asked hopefully. And do you think they will? Charles asked. I've been assured that they will, gentlemen, and It will be 2 gentlemen matching your description, the clerk offered. Charles took a quick look about the lobby to see if anyone was watching them. There was something off about all of this, and since the clerk had said this was for them, it was just weird. He was sure that Nate felt the same way, and that leaving here might be a good idea. Really, Mr. Clerk? Yes, real names, by the way? I'm Nate Child, and this is my friend Charles Monty. The clerk grinned and pointed towards their computer screen. And what do you know? That is exactly the name that I have for this reservation. With lots of worried looks about the place, and with lots of worry about where this was leading, Charles stepped forward, grabbing hold of his friend and pulling him a bit back. I think we actually have plans for another hotel. Thanks, though. Yeah, what my friend said. Your reservation will remain here if you need it. Neither of them liked the sound of that one bit, and turned to hurry from the hotel lobby. The sidewalk outside of the hotel wasn't as busy as the lobby, though it still had people rushing about. For a small island of maybe 9,000 people, it still felt far too busy. Nate looked about and frowned. What was that? I think it sounds and feels like we're being set up, but... Charles said, letting his words trail away. How and why? Nate finished. Yeah, Nate. Questions that we probably don't have time to get to. We need to follow my original plans and just get out of here. All for it, buddy. What exactly is the plan? Nate took a quick look around as people hurried to and fro. There was a concern on a lot of people's faces, but also a look of trying their best to go about their day. He wasn't sure if that was because of how this area was or just the way they were dealing with it. He stepped out towards the street, which was empty of cars, except for an occasional black SUV hurrying down towards a nearby road. No, I don't. Do you? Well, you suggested that boat, then that was your real plan, didn't you? We can go see what the beach has to offer, and see if we can find one of those boats. If the beach and those boats are like around here, it's probably not going to have much luck with that. We should have gone when I first proposed it, though, Nate pointed out. A few minutes difference probably would not have made much difference. Come on, let's just go see what we can find. Having started off walking down the sidewalk, Charles was moving quickly. He was almost gone from sight by the time that Nate got moving. He was caught off guard as there was so much going on to worry about. Yes, he just thought that Nate should hurry up, but this might be moving too fast. He hurried as fast as he could after his friends. They didn't get close to the beach at all. A line of marked cop cars and black SUVs created a line dividing the little town from the beach and the docks. There was a small crowd gathered as the line as the cops blocked anyone from getting anyone near. There's nothing to see here, people. Move along. Go back to your hotel rooms, motel rooms, or your homes. We will tell you over the loudspeaker when it is okay to come out again. While the cops said this, it didn't really seem to have much effect on the public. They stayed and the duo stayed mingling amongst the crowd so that they didn't draw any attention. See, I don't think us getting here any sooner would have helped, Nate. Shut up, I can see that. We still need to get off the island and away from this madness. I don't think anyone is going to let us merely walk away. Yeah, I know. Perhaps someone can give us a rundown on what's going on? You really need that? The fat man is running away from his security detail, and that's all we probably should know. No? Excuse me, what do you mean by that? Charles looked over at the woman beside him who had spoken. She was a mother with a young baby being bounced in her arms, and a man with a surly expression on his face, but a step behind her made Charles not want to respond to her question. He offered a frown as he tried to take a step away, but the crowd was still close by, not really letting that happen. I heard from some security people that there was a man in a shirt, and he was playing dead and trying to get away from them. That's all. What did you hear? Charles asked nervously. The island is on lockdown. Why do you know more than us? The lady pointedly asked. We don't really. A couple of security guards questioned what we were doing hiking out on the bluffs, and they told us that. Why would they do that? The interruption from the probable husband made both men try and take another step away. Neither was good with confrontation, especially when it came from more muscular people. This guy did appear to have the start of a dad bod, but those could be deceiving, which Charles knew all too well. A bar fight a few years had nearly left him with a concussion, despite not even being a part of the fight, and was merely passing by that bar. They were asking to see what we knew, and so that we could help them out if we spotted the man. It's, basic courtesy, information for information, Charles said, but the lady and gentleman didn't seem to accept it too well. Exactly, we were told, so that the security details could find a man in a puke yellow shirt faster. It's as simple as that. You two are weird. They nodded to the man's response as they managed to back away from this guy. Neither wanted anything to do with anything anymore. Thankfully, the guy turned back to his wife and went back to paying attention to the cops, or now saying something more. But whatever they were saying really wasn't registering with either Nate or Charles. Slowly, they kept going back through the crowd where it was less occupied by people. A couple 100 feet away from that mess, they found an alleyway between two businesses that were quiet. The two breathed a couple sighs of relief, but looked to one another with Nate having a rather nervous look. Take a breath and relax. We've done nothing wrong, Nate. We tried to dump a body. You talked me into helping dump a body. No, I didn't dump a body. It wasn't dead. It wasn't there. He isn't dead, hopefully, Charles said with a frown. He didn't really believe his own words. You don't even know. And neither do you. We don't know anything about this, and all we do know is that the guy with the yellow puke shirt vanished from sight, and that there was a shirt oddly hanging from some weeds and grass, even though the important leader guy person wearing his shirt. It's weird, and completely not our fault, Charles said. No one is going to see any of it this way, Nate replied. Well, they're not going to see anything, and they will only know that if they find us and we talk about it. Nate glared at Charles for more than a second, then said, Oh, I'm cracking under interrogation and throwing you under the bus. Great to know. Do you want to stand around here doing nothing or get out of here? How are we going to do that? I believe and I've heard that there's a bunch of marinas around the island. Let's go check them and see if we can just sail out of here. We don't know how to sail, Nate pointed out. I hope any boat that we find has a big old engine on it then. Do you even know how to work an engine on a boat? Not really, no. You? No. Then we will find someone who does. But you were the one eager to get out of here. So what's with the sudden change of emotion? Nate took a careful look about, and Charles, feeling like this was a good thing to do, did likewise. Nothing about the alleyway seemed out of the ordinary, though he'd never spent much time in such places. That hotel spooked me. It's weird, right? Yeah. That is weird, but what do you want to do? We can't stay here since someone obviously knows we are here and wants us here, Charles said. Why would they want that? Having someone to pin all of this on? They would need to know we were coming in the first place. We didn't know until today, Nate pointed out. They could have heard about us on the way over, on the ferry to here. Why or how, though? Nate complained. We did have that argument with that weird guy on the ferry.
So this whole thing was planned then?
Opening his mouth, Charles thought he had some sort of response that would help. He wound up shutting it a moment later, since nothing was coming out to help him. How the hell were they going to deal with this, with any of it?
Yeah, I guess so. They planned for a dead important person, or one who wants to play games,
Nate said with a shake of his head.
Right, I don't know, but I think I have some bad news for you.
There was a ugly yellow that had been unnoticed until a second ago, tucked behind a dumpster. Charles pointed towards it while biting his lip in worry. Nate then turned to look at it, and then froze up at the sight.
That's...
Not waiting for Nate to finish his sentence, Charles hurries over and finds that Nate has come with him. They stop and stare at the sight before them. Puke ugly yellow polo shirt lies on the ground. Great, all that worry for... Charles said, though his words trailed away.
It does look like the shirt we saw on the guy, though.
I fucking know that, Nate, but I was trying to hold out hope that it wasn't going to be bad, like everything else lately. Nate took one look around, and then announced,
We need to run.
End of part 1 of One Dead Man. Thank you for listening.